What up, perps? Kid Copious back in effect. Purple State Party, you know what we're doing here. We're repping America, the center, common sense, and freedom. Yeah, don't expect any talk today about Joe Biden falling or getting confused or Hunter Biden's pictures crashing servers. Today we're talking about our favorite subjects, I guess. Sleazy politicians and scuzzy activism. So, you know what? Let's get this thing popping. There you go. Before we get into our topics for the day, we got to touch on a few, mental irregularities. Just some weird shit that I came across. As overdoses soar in Los Angeles, group hands out drug pipes to the homeless. Right as I was getting ready to film, I saw a picture of I've already forgot her name. But she was an it girl, glamour model, fitness model and everything. And there's pictures of her now on the streets smoking a crack pipe. And I thought that was kind of ironic as this was the first story. That's good news storytelling right there, right? But anyhow, back to the topic at hand. So they're providing the homeless people with drug pipes. Smoking isn't as harmful as intravenous drug use. That's why the county needs to distribute pipes to those in need, whoever claims. We want to get them smoking. Basically, fentanyl is everything. Well, it's not like we didn't see this coming. And quite frankly, the part that really disturbs me is that during the pandemic, when governments were wasting time on frivolous, draconian, fascist policies, they didn't do anything. They just let the fentanyl problem continue and continue. And they sort of had an opportunity right there to do something when everything was kind of stepped back. You were getting people into emergency housing, blah, 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 blah. Could have done something then, but they didn't. And now it's out of control. And now they're slowly, reluctantly doing something about it. But it's basically in everything. And that's, that's a fact. Because fentanyl is far more addictive than any other drug. So if you can get fentanyl in there, boom. Why that is considered less a crime federally than marijuana, I really don't. I don't get it, But again, Trump had his opportunity to get rid of federal marijuana laws and move fentanyl up. He did it in a somewhat temporary basis, I believe. But whatever. Here's another great one. This was an article about somebody talking about how The View has become unwatchable. Okay, whatever. Not for the reasons you might think, but mainly because it's boring. But this quote that Joe Behar said here: Mr. Biden needs another 4 years to finish the job. You can't fight fascism in 4 years only. You need 8 years for that. To correct that, it should say, not my brand of fascism. Because it's very hard to say that the liberals, the far left, the Democrats, are not acting in the same fascist manner. I mean, as we'll see, when people had a problem with Target, they boycotted. But when people have a problem with oil, they disrupt society. They attack symbols, art symbols, things like that, things that are important to everybody. They go on and attack them. That's fascism. There are draconian laws about certain things, fascism. It happens on both sides of the fence. But to pretend that Biden needs another 4 years to finish the job, yeah. We could be in a scary position. We could be in a real scary position if that's allowed to happen. So, one of the things they like to do, the media especially, they love to whip up the needless frenzy. But they do it when they need it. There's a story out right now. I've been following this for a while because I just want to know what happens here. An 11-year-old boy shot by cops. He called the police because his mom's ex showed up and they were afraid that, he was going to get violent. And he was shot. And so far, there's been no explanation. I looked it up today. Still, it's an ongoing investigation. If I had to guess, I would say it was an accidental shooting. But where is the outrage on this? Not that there should be. But this is the kind of example of the story that the media would whip people into a frenzy until they're rioting. But they don't need it right now. They have other distractions. It's not an election year. So we're going to get into the Scuzzy activism here, and just the Scuzzy way that the game is being played right now. With other companies going woke because everybody's make last stand at Texas Buc-ee's. I'll include this because I want to go to a Buc-ee's. It looks like a really fun place. They got some good food. I've had some of their food, brought over from Texas. But anyhow, Target launches new kids clothing line with partner Jiz Maxwell. Yeah. And that is a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about. Because that's just an idea. It's not even that clothing line, that fictitious clothing line, would be aligned any which way. It's just a bad idea. It's just a super bad idea. And that's what a lot of this coming up is going to be about. Just simple bad ideas. You take your radical left-wing policies and you end up with woke. And like I've always said, woke, it has to have an element of stupidity and disruptiveness and destructiveness. It has to be dumb. For example, I don't really think that Bud Light did anything wrong. I understand people's problems with Dylan Mulvaney, websites, his YouTube and stuff like that but it wasn't like Bud went all in. They just simply provided a personalized can. Okay, but when you go too woke, apparently you go broke. First, we're going to start with these Scuzzy activists, because these are the first on my so-called HIT list. Climate activists tipped off WAPO before they vandalized a famous art display. So the Washington Post received advance notice about a protest in which activists vandalized a sculpture. Now these two people, Joanna Smith and Timothy Martin, are looking at multiple years in prison for a conspiracy to commit an offense against the United States and with injury to the National Gallery of Art. There you go. That's 10 years. So these young, impressionable people were convinced to go do something stupid. And then the people who did the convincing tipped off the press so they can maximize the effect. And now those two, have probably damaged or ruined their lives for something that Biden's already doing. Members of the Declare Emergency, oh God. Okay. They've blocked traffic. See, when you step up to blocking traffic and things above that's where it's just wrong. Because you're inconveniencing people regardless of how they may feel. You're simply trying to, and again, you're trying to get attention to the fact that fossil fuels are bad. Wow. And your little heroes are all flying around in their private jets. They're all cutting their deals. But it's part of a larger network. And look at who some of those donors are. Like Getty. Oh, I'm so guilty. I'm so rich because my family made money in oil. That's all it is. Why are you not spending your money trying to figure out a real solution other than just everything electric, solar and wind? We talked about last week, Porsche has an alternate fuel. Why aren't you donating money to that? And Chelsea Handler, a prime example of the left-wing assholes out there. I used to be a fan of her show, okay? I disagreed with some of her politics, but I took it in and examined it. But then one night she came out on her show and said quite plainly, let me make this clear, I hate Republicans. Oh, you hate Republicans. What happened to love and hate? Or love conquers hate. What happens to love, not hate? What happened to all that? I'll tell you what happens. They're only going to love the people on their side. And that's not true love. So what? So you love the people who agree with you? You want to be a big person, you love the people you disagree with. Okay? Or you just love everyone. I think Jesus said that. But anyhow. Anti-LGBTQ is the media's latest big gay lie. Now, not exactly a fan of the way this article is phrased, but a lot of what's said makes sense. The reality is that Target encouraged kids to be non-binary, which is just a thing that has been invented. Maybe that's how people do feel, you know, but is that big of a concern? It isn't to me. I don't really care. I mean, be whoever you want to be. But, you know, when they sell products that instruct children on how to use pronouns, they're starting to push buttons. Acceptance is one thing, but when it's forced upon you to accept, that's a completely different thing. And that's what a lot of people feel like is going on. People are being forced into this. Or it's just a bad idea. It's just not right. Whether it is, even if it was cis, it wouldn't be right. There are things out there like that. I mean, would you want to walk into the juvenile section and a department store has bathing suits with G-strings for like young kids? No. Lingerie for teenagers? No, these are bad ideas. You know, you don't, you know, you're not, if Target was to hold a porn celebration, would people just fall in line with that and go, well, it's all straight? No, it's the bad idea. Kohl's has a pride collection geared towards babies and donated to activist organizations that promote transgender ideology to children. Look, if you know, one of the fundamental things that we went through, people of my generation, I'm around 50, is that the concept, the idea, the awakening, if you would, that gay people were born that way. It changed a lot. At least it did for me, because now it wasn't a choice. And there's a big difference between being born away and a choice, okay? Because a choice is a choice. It just is. That's like an opinion. It's not a rule, it's not a law. But promoting it, encouraging it, even recruiting, that's where the lines get blurry. That's where people take offense. Most people who are upset about some of these things don't care about trans adults. But there's a big gray area surrounding the whole issue right now. Bathrooms, prisons, shelters, sports, teachers who pop off on YouTube. There are things out there. There are drag events that just are a bad idea. We're going to see one in a moment here, and I think you probably already know what I'm talking about. It's not that people are gay. It's that this is being forced. This is being done in a propaganda way that almost looks like recruitment. And I love every single person in the LGBTQ community. I'm sure there's a lot of you I don't want to associate with because you probably have political views I don't agree with, or blah, 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 blah. You don't like video games, you're not into sports, whatever. Those are the reasons why I'm not going to like somebody. You're a lunatic, you're an asshole, you're a jerk. No. Not because of your identity. I care less about that. But some of these things are just bad ideas. But the media wants to label it this way. Poor corporate America being held hostage and forced to target LGBTQ people. Because somebody doesn't think that their toddler should be targeted with gender-bending onesies. Okay, they have that right. You have that right to be offended by those things. It's what you do to the people that is the problem. This person, Jamie from Missoula, she probably doesn't care if somebody's trans. But marketing it towards babies, it's a bit much. The deliberate gaslighting by liberal media to shame ordinary Americans for having values and wanting to protect their children from indoctrination isn't about bigotry or hate, nor is it about being anti-LGBTQ. They just never expected the country to use their voices and wallets again. See, it's not bigotry or hate. It's the whole fact that it's being foisted in sometimes improper manners. That's really what the crux of this comes down to. You know, when you go overboard to show support for one side, you're going to have to expect backlash when you go overboard. That's the key word. Great example of the overboard. The Dodgers are receiving blowback for inviting a drag group to perform an explicit performance mocking Christianity and Christ explicitly. Now, what do they have to say about it? It's anti-LGBT. Or, conversely, maybe it's that the people who follow the Dodgers are overwhelmingly Hispanic, family-oriented, and Catholic. And they don't like mixing sports with scantily clad men in women's clothing jiggling their dicks in Jesus' face. Their words, not mine. But right there you can see part of the problem. It's not that it's drag performers. It's what they're going to do. You wouldn't expect the Dodgers to host a similarly cis presentation, a burlesque, for example, which a lot of these track shows are somewhat, I mean, the Venn diagram and all that, somewhat. It's not who these people are, it's what they do. But if you want to label it as bigotry to fuel the flames, that's what the media is really good at. And that's what they're doing. It's standing up for women's sports is not bigotry. Nobody is saying to a person like Leah Thomas, you can't swim. They're saying you are a biological male, you can't swim with the girls, but you're more than welcome to swim with the guys. But no, it's got to be labeled bigotry. But if you want to know about bigotry, Uganda bill makes gay punishable by life in prison. Yeah, oddly enough, America is not the worst place in the world to be gay. I think most people know that, but the media would love to paint it that way. But they have a charge of aggravated homosexuality. And I don't even... Yeah, that's... yeah. And, that's punishable by 14 years in prison. If you have gay sex, you could be subject to life in prison. And, of course, the writer wants to know what Biden can do about it. And, they are thinking about sanctions, I guess. But in Africa right now, only 22 of the 54 nations even allow homosexuality. Those are the real things we should be focusing in on. We shouldn't be seeing our media and the stores that we shop at overcommitting, and then the media is saying that people who kind of give pushback to that are wrong when this kind of shit's going on in the world. That's where the money should be going, not to paying people. Oh God. As usual, I'm running late. I always do this. I'm shit with time. BLM's financial fall proves it used dead black people to cash in. Instead of, yeah, it was like their lottery ticket. The George Floyd, she was dumped and this kind of proves the character of a person. She was given a multi-year streaming deal and never produced a single show. Took the money and went and bought mansions. Said that those mansions were going to be used by BLM to create content. Never created content. Used the houses, lived in the houses, and never even made one show in 2 years. She was supposed to have dramas, comedies, documentary series, animated program. Not one thing. Not one show. Then she resigned after going on a shopping spree. And now they recorded a $9 million deficit. They donated 33% of their charitable earnings to other groups, not necessarily doing anything to help any communities. But where's all their money? It's all gone. All that money they had. Right here, $90 million, and it's all gone now. It's all been just wasted with only 33%. The Better Business Bureau's Wise Giving Alliance standard says a group should spend 65% of its total expenses on program activities. 65%. They barely did half of that. And a lot of it was money given to charities set up by friends and family that are now gone, because those charities only spent 30. See how it goes? They profited off their own people. The person who wrote this article, our skin color was only a means to gain wealth and fame. I love how they close it. Like typical elitist leftists, its leaders had endless platitudes, catchy slogans, and a false moral superiority, but they lacked a plain, genuine care and selflessness. Yeah. It's exactly what Purple State wants to be about. Yes, I want catchy slogans, but I don't want endless platitudes, and I don't want false moral superiority. There needs to be a plan. There needs to be genuine care and selflessness. But what do we see right now? We see a lot of shit going on in this country on both sides of the goddamn fence. Both sides. No plan. No genuine concern. They don't give a shit. And they're enriching themselves. Shady stock deals. Kickbacks. Favorable donations from, for example, like we're going to see right here. Scratch the union's back, they gave you money. It's not helping anybody because they don't fucking care. Yeah, here's another bail foundation. The Minnesota Freedom Fund, used to bail out rioters, used to bail out people who then immediately went out, in 2 instances, immediately went out and killed people. They've suffered a 98% drop in contributions. They've served their purpose. It's not really about trying to help out people who need to get bailed out. It's about creating a fund to bail out the people who you are using to bail out your own soldiers. Yeah, there's lots of people out there who, if they were not bailed out, they would have their lives destroyed. People who drunk driving, for example. They lose their job because they made that one mistake. Yeah, go help them. But that's not what this was. And this was backed by the vice president. And it is now about to go out of business. And part of bailing people out leads to this shit. Young brothers playing with a kitten in their yard were murdered by a man wearing an ankle monitor. They lowered this guy's bail and said, well, he's going to be wearing a monitoring bracelet. What? It didn't stop him from going out and murdering a whole bunch of kids in one family. One of his cases involved aggravated assault, brandishing multiple handguns, fired and struck a man multiple times. So he shot somebody. And we just want to let him out. We want to set bail so that he can get it back on the streets. In the second case, he illegally possessed a handgun without a license, possessed crack cocaine with intent to deliver, and illegally altered a handgun serial number. Probably a gang member. Right? But there you go. Where's your... This guy was illegally possessing a handgun and had altered the serial number. And that's not even enough to set his bail. And this was the second case. First case, fine. Low bail, ankle monitor. I could see it. Second, what? No. You're not protecting the community. Talking about not protect. This is the back scratch for Newsom right here. taxpayer-funded union dues. And California's toxic idea is spreading. $400 million of public and private employees' union dues via tax credits. This amounts to an astonishing, partisan, and self-serving Democratic gift from the general public because union executives overwhelmingly donate their members' dues to progressive causes and candidates. See? He gives the union something, tax credits for union dues. They give him back money in the form of donations so he can stay in nice hotels and fly around and campaign and get elected again so he can make more money in the back rooms. Michigan, of course, not wanting to be outdone by California, they actually have ones that has no limit. And they offer refundable credits. So if that means the credit can offset union members' tax bills, and if it exceeds that amount, the state cuts them a check. So you're just literally buying union votes using tax money. Yeah, that seems fair. And why? Because unions are going down. Because there's not as much need for it. There's the laws. The purpose that the union once served is not as needed anymore. Collective bargaining, I could see it, but I also think that it creates more problems than it solves. Gavin Newsom went on a rant trying to say that certain states were trying to get rid of minorities. This little one was interesting because, for example, California's population is 6.5% black, whereas Texas is 13.2%. They are more diverse. These other countries are a bit more diverse than he would like the rest of the world to believe in. But whatever. And, the only place that California actually has more minorities is Asians, and liberals are starting to somewhat target them a little bit because they sort of throw off the whole diversity curve. Yeah, okay, we're just going to go through all that. So this one, the real reason. The real reason State Farm won't sell home insurance in California anymore. This is a very interesting article. So many have seized on the struggles with wildfires to perpetuate the myth that wildfires are at historic highs. They're not. And it's not a serious problem in most parts of the United States. And it's not because climate change gods are fickle, like it says here, but it's because these states practice better land management. See, the state's responsible. But of course, in this world, we have to blame everything on the buzzwords. So New York Times says climate shocks are making parts of America uninsurable. Right. The factors driving State Farm's decisions are beyond our control, including climate change, says the Department of Insurance. The people who are supposed to be the impartial overseer of insurance in California went with climate change, knowing damn well that that's not what's to blame. It's California's policies. It's the fact that we don't take care of our forests. We find excuses to not do it. Oh, environmental groups and blah, blah, blah. We don't do a good job of it. When people move mansions out into the forest areas and we do nothing to contain fires out there, it's a bit stupid. One thing you learn in Minecraft, when you build a little house, you clear all the trees. Not necessarily from fire damage, it's skeletons and creepers, but it's the same exact philosophy. You need to clear the land around you. But they don't. They come up with excuses. And when they do it, it's in areas that pose little risk to people and structures. Yeah, that's great. And because of that, California's wildfires tend to be more destructive. The Golden State, yeah, it's hard to call it that, suffered $14 billion in insured wildfire losses, the most in history. The worst years for other states don't even come close. In 2011, Texas, $530 million. Colorado in 2012, $450 million. Not even close. because we don't, it's how you manage the fire. It's not climate change. And if it is climate change, then we need to be doing more, but we're not doing shit. We don't put resources into this. We put resources into all of these liberal fantasies. And then at the end of the day, our regulators do not allow insurers' rates to be based upon actual reinsurance. What reinsurance is if you have a policy for $5 million, the insurance company might offset that through reinsurance, insure their insurance. So maybe if there's a loss, they pay $4 million and the other company pays $1 million. See? But California thinks that these insurance companies shouldn't be allowed to spread the risk. That's what insurance companies have to do. They have to spread the risk. But in California, you can't do that. You can't charge appropriate rates. California's fault, not climate change. Real quick to polish this off. That's a scary, scary, scary thought. The vulture of Hillary Clinton. I don't know. This is one of those weird things, man, where you think like, oh, anybody but Biden, and then Hillary flaps her wings, and you go, oh, fuck. When it comes to people, I don't mind being very liberal, okay? But when it comes to the government, you need to be conservative. And that's not what's going on. Jack Hole there is spending all kinds of money to put up car chargers. That should be private business doing that. It shouldn't be through government subsidies. You're forcing the Green Deal, and that's our biggest problem. They're forcing their agenda. Other companies are trying to force agendas. And that needs to stop. That absolutely needs to stop. Because as long as we allow the government to be for profit, the media companies to put profits over honesty and truth, as long as we allow governments to put criminals above victims, we're not going to get anywhere unless it's down. And we don't need to go down. We need to go up. There is a generation, several generations behind me now. And I want them to have the same wonderful experience I had in life. And I've already seen a lot of that erode. I just have. And it's sad. And part of the problem is that scuzzy activists / politicians take advantage of young people and get young people to do things and change things and allow them to make changes that screw up the entire process of life. They make it so much harder. And then we just turn around and we elect them again. Look at San Francisco being run into the ground. And London Breed over there trying to help, but getting shot down by her own constituents, by advocacy groups that think the homeless should just get to do whatever they want. Just let everybody do what they want. Fucking chaos, fucking anarchy, and it needs to fucking end. I'm Kid Copious. I'm Purple State, and so are you. Peace, y'all. Dollar.